It's kind of along the same lines, but in this week's retreat, we have heard from participants who say that they have sought Christian counseling or Christian-based counseling for, trying to resolve conflict or issues or pain and suffering, and they never got to the root cause of actually what or how they could stop the pain or the suffering. And how have you seen firsthand that Amanaska Yoga teachings have helped individuals? And I know we saw many examples in the retreat this week, but I would like to know, and just put it out to the group, have you seen other examples of this and how it can help?
I think much depends on what is the attitude and commitment of the teacher. And he should be so committed, the teacher, that your problem becomes automatically his problem. And therefore, he keeps nothing for himself. He gives away himself completely to you. And he pays attention to your problem. And therefore, he is able to take you into areas where you did not intend to go, into the darker areas where you did not intend to go, where you could not go because you did not know that you could go into those nooks and corners. And you need that kind of a relentless perseverance and going to the end of the corridor. And when you're able to go to the end of the corridor, then the problem reveals itself. And there should be no hurry to solve the problem. And there should be no a secret agenda of the little self that I should get this fruit or I should get that fruit. And all such things are distractions, as Krishnamurti says. And then we'll be able to go into the deeps of any problem. And then the problem of which we had very poor understanding, it begins to reveal itself. When you've gone that far, when you dare to go that far. And so one has to have an opportunity to go very deeply into oneself, along the lines shown by the Master Krishnamurti. Then I think we can find a way of illuminating the problem and resolving the problem, which is not found in conventional counseling and in conventional therapy. It's the tenacity, the perseverance, the sincerity, and the sincerity of the whole atmosphere, the sincerity of the teacher. And you find number of kindred souls having the same dedication as yourself, and you're not casual seekers, you're not doing window shopping. And so when all these conditions are fulfilled, then you go that far.
No, I think it was covered by Ajit. Maggie took over the question.
I do have another question kind of in regard to that. You asked about the Christian-based counseling and how is Amanaska Yoga different? And I'd like to share just a little bit with the group, and maybe we can chat a little bit. I spent a lot of time and years in counseling, some of it Christian, some of it non-Christian. And for each one of those crises, if you will, I was able to share, what happened, and in some instances, the individuals that I sought counsel from, they saw things from my vantage point, and so in order to move me forward, we talked about coping mechanisms and really just kind of scratched the surface. And one of the big aha moments throughout this retreat for me was the fact that this has been a pattern that I've experienced throughout the course of my life based upon something that happened many, many years ago when I was a young girl. And unbeknownst to me, that I was an architect in so many of these other problems that had occurred. So for me, And I know that with this retreat, having trust in the individuals that were here and the openness and the size, I was able to feel very safe, scared initially, but very safe, and then finally relieved to get to the root of why I continue to have these same issues over and over again, with a variation, of course, on the theme. And, I've been able to look at myself in the mirror and say, this is who you really are. And you had your arm in this. And additionally, forgive myself and move forward from there. So, what do y'all have to say? Sure.
I want to add a note to what Maggie is saying, that we are talking of Christian counselors. Now we might as well talk of counselors who have no religion or thrown away their religion. And what do you call them? You can call them secular counselors or psychiatrists and psychotherapists who don't necessarily come to the counseling table with a religious background and with a strong conviction that it is your ancestral religion which is going to save you. They may not be those kind of people. They may be working with modern knowledge, with Jungian psychology or Freudian psychology or some other system of psychology. And so you can have Hindu counselors, you can have Christian counselors, and you can have some other counselors belonging to some other school. But the point is that these have all become systems, and these have all become in a way commercial, with there being a constraint on the number of hours you're sitting at the consulting table. And now that's a distraction, that you've got to finish something by the end of this hour, and it's never going to happen that way. And you must have unlimited amount of time. And because the problem may be buried under so many layers, and you need to be patient, and you need the right kind of teaching, which is the right kind of medicine for you to dredge that heavy weight which is buried under layers. And that is why the counseling may not be effective. And more importantly, the counselor can only take you that far, to which distance he has himself traveled in his personal life. So if he has traveled to a certain depth in his personal life, he may have an advantage in being able to take you to that depth, and not certainly beyond that. So these are things which are involved in how far one can go. And one must not really belong to any system, and one must have a commitment to truth and discovery, with an understanding that self-knowing is the greatest diamond jewel. There's nothing which surpasses that. And once you get that, then you're prepared to dedicate yourself and go the whole way.